You're not here to be saved. You're here to remember. You already carry what you're seeking. The power to create the life you want, the life that feels aligned, expansive, and unmistakably yours, is not out there waiting to be found. It's within you, and it always has been. But here's the problem. We forget. Not because we're weak, not because we're unworthy, but because we've been trained to look outward for what can only be unlocked from within. We live in a world that packages inspiration like fast food. Quick to consume, but empty when digested, where people confuse spiritual entertainment with spiritual embodiment. We scroll through quotes, binge-watch success stories, nod along to the words, and yet nothing changes. Why? Because remembering your power is not about consuming more. It's about practicing what you already know. This video isn't here to impress you. It's here to interrupt you, to wake you up to what's been available all along. Dr. Ernest Holmes didn't teach theory. He taught application. He taught that spiritual law is not something you wait for. It's something you use. Daily, consciously, without apology. So this isn't about hype. It's not about waiting for the universe to pick you. It's about picking yourself. Right now. And choosing to work with the invisible laws that are already at play in your life. Because once you remember who you really are, you stop asking for permission. You start creating on purpose. Let's begin. Picture your home at night. The power is running, the wiring is in place, the current is live, but the room is still dark until you flip the switch. That's not magic. That's design. Electricity doesn't need to be created, it just needs to be allowed to move. And your inner power works the same way. You've been plugged into the source since the beginning. You've never been disconnected, but connection is not the same as activation. And most people walk through life sitting in spiritual darkness, not because the power isn't available, but because they've forgotten to flip the switch. They wait for a sign. They wait for permission. They wait for the perfect moment, but what they really need is a shift in awareness. This is the first truth you have to accept. You don't need to create divine power. You only need to remember and allow it. You are already wired for it. You've always been. But here's what gets in the way: spiritual atrophy. Just like muscles weaken from lack of use, your spiritual faculties, faith, imagination, intention, presence, they begin to fade when neglected. Not disappear, just dull. The longer you go without engaging your inner life, the more you start believing that transformation is hard, or worse, that it's not even possible for someone like you. But the truth is, transformation is not foreign to you. It's natural. It's coded into your being. Holmes taught that the divine is always active, always available. But it is your recognition of it, your conscious choice to connect. That determines whether you experience that power in your life. And that recognition, it doesn't require ceremony. It doesn't require credentials. It begins with something incredibly simple, a decision to wake up, to remember, to reclaim. So how do you begin? Start with a simple but intentional act. Right now, wherever you are, close your eyes. Visualize a light switch on the wall in front of you. See your hand reaching toward it. And now, flip it on. As you do, speak these words, quietly or in your heart. I now activate the divine power within me. Feel that shift, not emotionally, not theatrically. Just notice the presence of something being acknowledged. You've just moved out of spiritual autopilot and into deliberate awareness. And yes, it's symbolic, But symbols speak fluent subconscious. It might seem too simple, but remember, symbolism is the mother tongue of your subconscious. And creation? That's its only job. So what matters is not how big the act feels. What matters is that you chose it. You stopped waiting. And in that single decision, you began. And once that switch is on, your role isn't to force the current. It's to stay aligned with it, to keep your thoughts, your beliefs, and your behavior in harmony with the power that's already flowing through you. The energy is real. The connection is live. The room is ready to light up. And this is just the beginning. Because the switch might activate the power, but what governs its direction is a law you've lived under your whole life, without even knowing it. Now it's time to learn how it works. Think about the last time you dropped something. Did you wonder if it would float upward instead of falling? Of course not. You didn't hesitate. You didn't need proof. You trusted gravity to do its job, instantly and without fail. Now imagine if you approached your goals, dreams, and desires with that same level of certainty. Not hope, not maybe, but a deep, immovable knowing that what you seek is already in motion. That's the shift, Doctor. Ernest Holmes wanted us to understand that manifestation is not magic, it's law, just like gravity. You don't have to believe in gravity for it to work. It simply operates with or without your permission. The same is true for the spiritual laws that govern your reality. They're impersonal, consistent, and always responding to the dominant patterns of your mind. So what does that mean? It means your results are not random. They're not lucky or unlucky. They're lawful. And this is where faith becomes more than belief. It becomes alignment. Faith, in this context, isn't about wishing hard enough. It's about living in such a way that your thoughts, emotions, and expectations are congruent with the outcome you say you desire. When your inner world says, "I trust," but your actions whisper, "I doubt," you create conflict, and that conflict delays manifestation. So if you've ever wondered, why isn't it working? I believe in this. Ask yourself, is my belief passive or is it embodied? Because spiritual law responds to energy, not language. It listens to your dominant signal, not your momentary intention. Let's make this real. Try this. The next time you think about something you want, a new opportunity, a healed relationship, a financial breakthrough, instead of wondering if it will happen, practice experiencing it as if it were governed by law, as if it were as certain as gravity. We'll call this the gravity thought exercise. Visualize your desired outcome. Breathe into the feeling of already having it. And then say to yourself, this isn't a hope, it's a law. Of course it's coming. This isn't blind optimism. It's training your nervous system to normalize the energy of success so that your subconscious stops resisting it. Remember, you don't wait for gravity to work. You just trust it to be there. And then you move. The same principle applies here. Manifestation becomes effortless the moment it becomes inevitable. In your mind, your body, and your behavior. You see, your outer world doesn't lie. It's a reflection projected from within. And if you want to change the picture, you need to rewire the projector. If your life were a film, your mind is the projector. And, as Dr. Ernest Holmes put it, Begin within the mind, everything else follows. This isn't poetic advice, it's structural truth. Everything you experience in your outer world, every relationship, opportunity, and challenge, is shaped first by your inner narrative. Not just what you think, but how you think. Over time, these patterns become the filters through which you perceive reality. Modern neuroscience supports this. The brain is a pattern-seeking machine. When you repeat a thought, you reinforce a neural pathway, a groove in the mind that becomes easier to follow the next time. And here's the key. Your brain doesn't care if the thought is empowering or destructive. It only cares about repetition. It's efficient, not wise. So, if you've spent years replaying thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," "This always happens to me," or "I can't change this," your brain has adapted to make that loop effortless, automatic. That's not your identity, that's your programming. And what's been programmed can be rewritten. The starting point? Awareness. You cannot change what you don't first observe. So begin here. Every morning, before reaching for your phone, take 2 minutes, sit in silence, and ask yourself, what story am I about to tell myself today? Am I narrating from fear or from faith? From contraction or from creative power? Then choose a sentence, one clear, grounded truth you want to embody. Not a hollow affirmation, but a direction for your consciousness to follow. For example, I am the source of calm in uncertain spaces. Today, I choose to create rather than react. I don't chase, I align. This is more than mindset, it's neurosculpting. Each time you speak and act from this new internal script, you're rewiring the mental projector that casts your reality. You begin to see new options, new responses, new relationships with old patterns. Because here's the deeper truth. You don't see life as it is. You see life as you are, as your subconscious has been trained to expect. And every new thought that aligns with your higher truth is a vote for a different future. But this process doesn't work once. It works daily, consistently, like brushing your teeth. Not because your teeth are filthy every day, but because maintenance is the secret to health. So too with your thoughts. Train your mind, or it will default to survival mode. That mode isn't evil, it's just limited. It protects, but it doesn't expand. Because creation isn't just your gift, it's your job. But you're not just thinking alone in a vacuum, you're tapping into something far greater. A shared intelligence that flows through all things. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. That metaphor, spoken by mystics and echoed across traditions, is more than poetic, it's precise. It reflects one of the foundational truths Dr. Ernest Holmes taught, that each of us is not separate from the divine, but a living expression of it. We are not disconnected from the one mind. We are made of it. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every word you speak, is carried on the current of a greater field of intelligence. Like a wave rising from the sea, you are not apart from it. You are it, in motion. And yet, most people live as if they're stranded, as if their thoughts are isolated, as if their problems are personal, disconnected, cut off from any larger source of wisdom. But the truth is, the connection has never been broken. What's been lost is awareness. Think of it like this: spiritual Wi-Fi. The divine never stopped broadcasting. We just forgot how to receive. But most of us are so immersed in noise, stress, and internal static that our reception grows weak. Not because the source stopped sending, but because we stopped tuning in. You don't need to build the connection. You need to remember it. You need to realign. And realignment doesn't require a pilgrimage. It requires a moment of intention. Just like you can't expect to get online without entering the right password, you can't expect to access divine guidance if your inner frequency is locked in fear, doubt, or control. So ask yourself honestly, what frequency are you operating on today? Are you transmitting frustration or faith? Are you vibrating with scarcity or receptivity? Tuning into the one mind doesn't mean dissolving your individuality. It means letting go of the illusion that you're doing life alone. You are not separate from this source. You are a unique instrument, tuned to harmonize with something infinite, intelligent, and deeply creative. So how do we connect in a real daily way? Start simple. Each morning, before the world begins to ask for your attention, take 5 quiet minutes. Close your eyes, breathe, and speak these words slowly and deliberately. I am not alone in thought. I am connected to the one mind that knows, guides, and creates through me. This isn't about reciting something magical. It's about recalibrating your inner lens. You are reminding your nervous system, your identity, and your imagination of what is already true. And when you return to this practice consistently, something subtle begins to shift. You stop chasing answers. They begin arriving. You stop forcing solutions. You start sensing timing. You no longer feel separate because the current starts carrying you again. Holmes once said, "We are not limited by actual boundaries, but by false beliefs." And one of the most damaging beliefs is that you have to figure everything out on your own. You don't. You never did. You are part of something intelligent, alive and benevolent, not outside of you, but within you. And yet, within that vast signal, there's a second one, quieter, more personal, and most of us have forgotten how to hear it. Dr. Ernest Holmes believed that intuition isn't a luxury, it's a spiritual necessity. He taught that it's our most direct line to the divine, a form of intelligence deeper than intellect, quieter than thought, truer than fear. But if intuition is always available, why does it often feel so hard to access? The answer lies in the difference between signal and noise. Your intuition is the signal. It's clean, direct, unmistakable once you learn its texture. But in the modern world, we're saturated with noise. External demands, internal chatter, endless distraction. We've trained ourselves to respond to the loudest voice, not the wisest one. And here's what most people don't realize. Intuition rarely shouts. It doesn't argue, compete, or justify itself. It whispers. It knows. The problem isn't that you lack guidance. It's that your internal channel is cluttered. Too many frequencies are playing at once. Fear, past conditioning, other people's expectations. And when the signal is buried in static, clarity feels impossible. So the goal isn't to create intuition. It's to clear space so it can be heard again. Let's get practical. Here's a 3-minute daily ritual to strengthen your intuitive channel. Sit in silence. No music, no guidance, just stillness. Close your eyes. Feel your breath, not to control it, but to come home to it. Ask this one question, calmly and clearly. What truth am I not hearing today? Don't force an answer. Don't chase a thought. Just listen. That's it. No agenda, no performance. You're not trying to figure it out. You're allowing wisdom to rise. on its own timeline, in its own form. And over time, something beautiful happens. You stop second-guessing. You stop outsourcing every decision. You begin to trust your own knowing. Not because it's loud, but because it's undeniably right when it comes. Now, one common fear people have is, what if I mistake emotion for intuition? Here's the distinction. Emotion often reacts to a story. Intuition reveals the truth behind the story. Emotion is fast, loud, and temporary. Intuition is quiet, calm, and consistent. It doesn't need drama to be heard, only stillness. And when you act from that place, you'll notice something subtle but profound. You stop looking for signs, because your life becomes one. Holmes taught that intuition is a form of direct communion with the infinite. It bypasses logic not because it's irrational, but because it operates from a deeper intelligence than reason alone can access. And the more you trust that whisper, the louder your life becomes. Listening is one half of the equation. The other half is speaking back with clarity. You've learned to listen. Now, it's time to speak. Not with words, but with vision. Visualization isn't daydreaming. It's not wishful thinking or passive hope. It's a deliberate, conscious act of creation. A clear signal, broadcast from your inner world to the greater field of possibility. It's how you speak to the divine mind in a language it understands. Image, energy, and emotion. Dr. Ernest Holmes believed that when we visualize with clarity and feeling, we're not inventing fantasy. We're giving structure to potential. We're impressing our intention onto the universal creative field, not demanding, but directing. And now, science agrees. Neuroscience shows that your brain does not fully distinguish between a real event and a vividly imagined one. When you rehearse a scenario in detail, your brain fires the same neurons, as if you were actually living it. This is not abstract metaphysics. This is biology. It's the reason elite athletes mentally rehearse games before stepping on the field. They're not just preparing their muscles, they're teaching their minds to believe. They're creating certainty before the outcome ever arrives. And that same principle applies to your life, because you don't manifest what you say you want. You manifest what your subconscious expects. And visualization is how you align the conscious and the subconscious into one coherent signal. Let's make this real. Here's a simple 5-minute daily practice to speak to the divine mind. Find a quiet space. Sit down. Close your eyes. Take a few breaths to center yourself. Now choose one desire, one specific outcome you truly want. Not someday, now. Maybe it's a career shift, a loving relationship, a healed body. Now see it. Not as a dream, not as something distant, but as something already happening, already done. Then add texture. What are you wearing? What's around you? What can you hear, touch, smell? Let your senses fill in the details, because your subconscious responds best to depth. And most importantly, feel it. Not the excitement of anticipation, but the grounded emotion of already receiving. Feel the calm, feel the gratitude, feel the peace of alignment, because when thought and emotion unite, you're not just imagining, you're programming, you're installing a new internal reality. And when the internal changes, the external eventually follows. But understand this. This is not a magic trick. It's not a shortcut. It's a spiritual discipline. You wouldn't plant seeds in a garden and dig them up every day to see if they've grown. You'd water them. You'd trust them. You'd let the process unfold. Visualization works the same way. Even 5 minutes a day, done with presence, is enough. You're not asking the universe to obey. You're showing it you've already arrived. Dr. Holmes said, "You don't coerce the law of mind, you align with it." So stop waiting for signs, stop waiting for permission, and start participating. Show your mind what's possible. Feel it, live it, let life respond. But even as you visualize, life will test you, and those tests, they're not punishment, they're the doorway. Dr. Ernest Holmes taught, every challenge is an opportunity, a call to awaken a deeper dimension of consciousness. But let's be honest, it rarely feels that way in the moment, when the bills are piling up, when the relationship is cracking, when your body doesn't feel like home anymore. It doesn't feel like a lesson. It feels like failure, like fear, like frustration. And yet, this is where the shift begins, because what if your challenge isn't a problem, but a mirror? What if it's life reflecting your current level of consciousness? Not to punish you, but to invite you forward? Here's the truth. Every external struggle is a messenger, and when you stop resisting the message, you unlock the power to transform it. Let's break it down with 3 divine reframes for the most common areas of resistance. 1. Money. Reframe. From scarcity to capacity. Instead of, "I never have enough," try, "This is revealing how much I've outgrown my current model of value and flow." Challenge in finances often shows where you're shrinking, in worth, in creativity, or in trust. Don't curse the lack. Study it. Use it as a prompt to expand the container of your receiving. 2. Relationship reframe. From conflict to conscious response. Instead of, "Why are they doing this to me?" ask, "What version of me keeps showing up in this pattern, and is she still aligned with who I'm becoming?" Conflict invites you to respond from presence, not pain. It reveals old scripts, old reactions. It's not about blame. It's about evolution. 3. Health reframe. From breakdown to realignment. Instead of, "Why is my body failing me?" say, "What part of my life is asking to slow down, heal, or be honored differently?" The body is a brilliant communicator. Symptoms are signals, coded invitations to reconnect, with rhythm, nourishment, and internal peace. These aren't platitudes, they're portals. Because when you meet a challenge with conscious awareness, you shift the frequency of the experience. You move from reaction into reclamation. Does this mean challenges disappear? Number. But they stop controlling you. They stop defining you. They become fuel, and with each challenge you face, with honesty, presence, and divine perspective, you gain strength, you gain sovereignty. Holmes said, "Life is not something to get through, it's something to unfold through." So next time resistance rises, pause, breathe, and ask, what is this here to wake up in me? Because the question isn't, why is this happening to me? The real question is, what is this trying to evolve in me? Because sometimes resistance isn't the enemy, it's the voice of your next evolution. So what now? What do you do with all this power? Simple. You use it. Daily. Intentionally. Without waiting. Duration, approximately 1 minute 30 seconds. Word count, 280. Tone, empowering, clear, grounded. Dr. Ernest Holmes once said, "What the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience." In other words, do not just believe, live it. Let what you know become what you do. So here is what that looks like starting today. Flip the inner switch. Remember, the power is already present. You just have to allow it. Trust like gravity. No forcing, no begging, just alignment with the law that always responds. Visualize daily, not to control outcomes, but to train your nervous system for truth, to make clarity feel familiar. Listen to your inner voice, cut the noise, tune the channel. Let the signal rise above the static. Transform your challenges. They are not setbacks, they are assignments. Each one is a doorway to a deeper version of you. You do not need to be perfect, you just need to show up, consciously, again and again. Because divine power is not something you earn. It is something you remember, and something you practice. If this message spoke to you, write it in the comments. I claim my divine power today, and remember, do not just hear this, use it. So don't just awaken, walk. The universe is already walking toward you.